was a cool night. And the previous people who had the record were from St. Louis. It was our coach, Randy Lightfoot. So that was like I don't know, probably one of my best experiences bowling. Period, man. I don't know, but what's your best experience? You won a title, actually. I want to talk about that.
Okay.
So where'd you win a title at?
Where? I won in the Middle East.
I know. What, Qatar?
Qatar, yeah.
Okay.
Qatar Open 2015.
How did that go? How was that?
That was actually pretty fun.
Well, yeah.
It was like I bowled really well, and it felt good. I think I led qualifying that year too. Like I had this monster set in qualifying. I was like 320 over or something like that for 6 games, and I was able to make the step ladder. This is most people know I'm pretty good international bowler, and so I did a lot of crap for that sometimes. But this was the third year I bowled. I went to Qatar the first year in 2013, I think. Marshall and I and Matt Gazin said, "Screw it, let's go to bowl international event." Middle East is really cool. It's always fascinated me, so I really wanted to go to that part of the world, and they had a big money tournament over there. So we went, and I ended up making the TV show the first year I went and bowled it. So that's pretty cool. And then I bowled terrible on TV show, and then the next year we went again, and I made the TV show again. And I think that was my senior year in college. So the first year we went was my junior year in college. And then the second year we went was my senior year. And then in 2015, I went after I graduated and again made the TV show. I had to bowl Marshall the first round, of course. We traveled to the other side of the world just to bowl each other again. And Marshall and I hate losing to each other. So our match, I think the final score was like 520 to 510 for a 2-game match. Like, we did not miss. It was a lot of fun, I guess. And then the other match was like 440 to 420 or something like that. And so we didn't want to lose to each other, but I ended up winning. And then I doubled Sean in the title match, and that was kind of low scoring a little bit too. I think I only shot about 450. But
were they hard?
Not really. I mean, it was like we talked about. Like, it wasn't that they were hard or easy. It's just kind of like it was softer, but like you still had to kind of. It was hard to strike at times, and
yeah.
I don't remember the exact numbers for the cut, but usually the European stuff gets to about 180 over or so. So about, I guess that's what 230 average for 6 games. Maybe that's a little bit too high. Maybe it was like 150 that year. I can't remember. But anyway, I had a good look.
I remember last year at Rash's place. You went to Rash's tournament last year, right?
Yeah, when he ran it. It wasn't last year. It was 2 years ago. He didn't have one last year.
What?
Yeah.
Rash didn't have an event last year?
Not last year, no. The year before he did.
Okay, so maybe the year before. We were sitting at the table, and Marshall was kind of like a couple pairs down. I think he was like standing at the ball return, and I was asking you about your win. And I was like, "So who'd you bowl in the final or whatever?" And he goes, "Well, I bowled Marshall." And I was like, "Oh wow, that's a good win." You go, "Yeah, I always beat Marshall, so that was a guarantee." and you said it loud. You said it loud enough for him to hear. And then you were like, "Yeah." Then I bowled Rash and won. I don't know. I thought that was funny.
Yeah.
So did you feel like when you won that day? Did you feel like you were on top of the world? Did you feel like you were the best? Did you feel like you could beat anybody?
You know, I don't know. It was kind of. I'm not gonna use the word surreal, but like it was kind of hazy because I was just so in a zone where I didn't really worry about anything. I was just trying to like finish the tournament without falling on my face.
Yeah.
And I just wanted to go up there and make the shots. Like I want to make every shot count. And I was bowling really well. I was like, oh man, I'm in the title match. Like I can't believe this is happening. So I'm just gonna face forward and go after it. And I ended up actually I won sitting on the bench. I think Sean 2-8-10 in the 10th or whatever, and I didn't even have to go up and throw my 10th frame to win. And it kind of hit me. I watched him throw the shot, and he missed. And I was like, is it over? Like, can you believe? Are you kidding me? Like, I'm champion now. And the best part was I didn't even realize it was a PBA Tour title until people started telling me afterwards.
Whoa!
So like, I know the Qatar Open was, you know, a big international event, so like that felt great to win that. It was a World Bowling Tour EBT event. I was like, great, you know, international superstar over here for, you know, a week, and so I was like, that's so cool. And then people were like, oh man, you won your first PBA title. I'm like, what? You're kidding me? Like, I know. I was like, oh cool, yeah, international title. Like, no, PBA title. I'm like, what? So like, I didn't even realize that, and then got the phone call for a banner and all that. I was like, damn. I guess it's real.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
Well, I think that's pretty common that when you're not winning or when you're not doing very good or when you're fantasizing about winning or you make it seem so great, like that's going to be like the most amazing feeling in the world, and maybe eventually it will feel great. But like when you actually do it, you don't give it the attention or you don't give it the high that you do when you think about winning.
Yeah.
So when you dream about it, you think of it as like the most amazing thing ever, and then you do it, and you think of it as like, you know, not real life, or you don't like actually enjoy it like you thought you would when you dream about it until maybe like a year later and you think about it, or a couple weeks later or whatever.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was kind of on a much smaller scale. I bowled a lot of regionals in my life, and I've only won one until a couple weeks ago. I won my second one, and I thought,
Oh,
you know,
congrats.
I bowled a lot of these, and I just think like winning would be the greatest thing ever. And then I won, and I was like, you know, just driving home like it was just another day. Like
Yeah.
I definitely did not give it the energy that I gave it when I thought about it. So.
It's kind of like the thinking of, you know, act like you won before or whatever. And
Yeah.
yeah, I've won some pretty big tournaments and I've done well. And it's just like, you're right. Like you don't, like, you're super excited like going into it, and like you're probably gonna be super excited when you get home, or like when I finished second in Sweden, like it was like I lost to Belmonte and like I made it to the TV show there, and like I was flying home. I was flying home in economy class. Like I was just a normal person. Like you know, we don't really like try to put ourselves on a pedestal necessarily, because like I think that's just indicative of who we are. Like I'm
Yeah.
still just me. I just happen to have a good week or whatever.
Yeah, how was the Lucky Larson's event? Was that a good one?
Yeah, I enjoyed it. It was really.
They were hard that week, right?
Oh, they were hard. It was one of the harder patterns I've ever bowled on, probably. um, Especially for like an EBT event or a WBT event, because there have been kind of lately, the last few years, they've been historically like high scoring, the WBT and EBT stuff. So to go in there and have to, I think the cut was 70 over for the 6-game block. And I got in with 80 over and knew I was in soft. I was like pressing for that 80 over.
Right.
And, you know, and I found a trick that worked on that pattern. And that's what kind of carried me all the way to the title match.
What was the trick?
Staying behind it. I was like dead up the back of it, and that just blended the back end just enough to where I actually had a decent amount of room and could strike and stay right. And because Belmo obviously bowled well, Pontus bowled well too, and he kind of likes to get in and give it a little berth.
Yeah.
And so I couldn't. I was like, I tried to do that my first block, and then I don't know if it was jet lag or what, but I just wasn't doing anything. My ball, there's a lot of out of bounds, and there's a lot of cliff, like kind of like that, where the ball would either go dead left or dead right. And then I ended up the last game of the first block I bowled, I ended up just trying to like try to feel my hand like way up the back of it and just let it tumble down lane. And it worked. I was like, great, maybe I just do this next block and get, you know, 80 over and get in. And that's what I did. And then it ended up actually even getting better as the week went on.
Did it give you shim?
Yeah, it gave me a little bit of shim, and it gave me a little early hook to the right to give me that room. It just enough to give me a little bit comfortable and to kind of make the shots and get some strikes to shoot 210, maybe bust out 230 every now and then. And that's what pretty much carried me the whole way. You didn't need to shoot 230 every game. That was another one of those tournaments where it kept me out of trouble too. I made a lot of spares and just took care of business and got to the title match where I got run over, but I mean, still, it got me there.
It's amazing how when they're hard, how little it takes for a person to become confident. Mm-hmm. Like when they're really hard and you have to narrow your focus in and your mind in on hitting like this small spot, and then you get a little bit of room, how much joy that brings you just to know that you now have the ability to shoot 230, whereas before you felt like you had to be perfect to shoot 210.
Yeah.
And all it is just little. Like if you had that amount of room on an easy pattern, you'd hate your life. But if you're on a hard pattern, you're super happy. When
Yeah.
you so what was the format of that event? So there was a bunch of qualifying squads, and then they cut to a certain amount, and then a step ladder.
Yeah. You're talking about the Lucky Larson Masters, right? Uh, uh, it was a EBT event, I think. So like the standard EBT format is you have like 5 or 6 days. I think they did like 2 weeks. They really made this a big event. But you have 6-game block qualifying and unlimited reentry, and if you can get on a squad, you can bowl it. And then they cut to I don't remember the exact numbers, but they make a cut after all the qualifying. Usually it's top 40 or so or whatever. I can't remember what they did here.
Right.
But then we bowled another 6-game block, I think. And pins don't usually carry over. I don't think they did here. Again, I can't remember, but yeah, usually you bowl the qualifying, then you bowl like a 6-game block, and then I think we bowled like another 6-game block, and then our total scores created the top 4 step ladder. And
Where'd you qualify?
I qualified somewhere in the middle, and then I bowled really well during the semis, and then I ended up qualifying second for the TV show.
And then who'd you beat on the show?
I ended up bowling Yari Rata, I think I'm sure I'm saying his name wrong, but he's a good player from Finland. And I ended up beating him, and then I lost to Belmo in the title match.
I watched a couple of shots of, I think it was maybe I watched the whole match of your and Belmo's match, and I saw how you were playing the lanes. I saw you were playing in and kind of just fading it back.
Yeah.
Looking for shim essentially. And then Belmo was just doing what he does. He's so good when it's a medium pattern that's really difficult.
Yeah. I bowled well. I bowled really well, I should say that. And Belmo bowled a game against me in the title match that was higher than my highest game that week. So it was just like, I was like, cool. Like I started out with a double. I'm like, man, I'm gonna win. And then he goes like spare, like sits bagger. I'm like, yeah, there it is.
he's stupid good, man. When he went at the TOC this year, he had, I think the first block he didn't bowl very good. And the next block he comes out with urethane, and he's fading it back from like 4th arrow with urethane. And I'm just like, really? And he goes like 180 over or something like that, and he gets back in it, and then he makes the show. Well, actually, no, because he made the top 24 barely. He did something. He did something. I don't know. Maybe the last game of qualifying to get in. No, someone messed up. Someone missed an easy spare for Belmont to get in. And I'm just sitting there like, of course,
of course.
Like that's the last thing everybody wants is Belmont in the top 24. Yeah. And then I was talking to Devaney a little bit later about like mindset and stuff, and he goes, "You just got to believe." He goes, he said that mother effer down there. He's pointing down the very far pair because he's 24th. He goes, that mother effer down there, he'll make the show. And sure enough, it's like, what? Like, gosh, dang it, man. You can't even give him an ounce. He's just gonna magnify it into just beating your butt.
Yeah, that's going back to what we're talking about, like world class bowlers and what separates them from like we consider ourselves pretty good bowlers and some of the best in the world, but like these guys, it's just that mental thing, that belief, or that like I like to say they know they're gonna make TV show. Like they know this move is correct. It's not like a belief; it's they know it, and they could be wrong. But that attitude of knowing it and knowing that they're gonna do it, or it's hard to teach. It's hard to learn. Like we're still working on it, apparently.